Hey, everybody, welcome to Locker Room. This is Southland's podcast for men, where we redeem men's conversations, talk about the right things in the right ways. My name is Scott Hatfield. Thanks for checking out the podcast. This podcast is all about creating a culture of strong men, godly men that fight for the most important things. And I'm pumped about our guest today. He jumped out in front of the traffic a little quick, but that's all right. We'll get there. He's on our staff. He's been a very long friend of mine, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But he grew up in a little rough area of Louisville called Fairdale, where I grew up. He and I went to middle school and high school together. He's actually one of the guys that's responsible for helping me know the Lord. And I started going to his church, Fairdale Christian, and we played on the same church league basketball team. He was there the night that I gave my life to Christ and was baptized when I was 17. And eventually I followed him to Cincinnati Bible College. And he graduated 1 year in front of me, but he and I have had similar church experiences. We both worked at a great church in Louisville called Northeast Christian Church. We both have done student ministry work. We've led camps and been to CIY and all these things. And we both have been church planters. And we both have had some really tough seasons of ministry where we both ended up in different seasons, but worked secular jobs for just a season as we healed up and waited on the Lord to direct our paths. And now we both are honored to get to serve and work at Southland. We stayed pretty connected for a long time in our ministry careers. And he's got an incredible story. He's got amazing gifts. He loves people, lives with integrity, has a huge heart for the gospel. He loves people, and he wants them to know Jesus, but not just that. He wants them to grow and discover the abundance that Jesus wants to give them and grow as a disciple of him. And there's so much to say about my friend, but one more thing I will say is that we're going to laugh some, which I'm excited about, and he brings a lot of joy to our staff and our team and our church. And so he's the campus pastor of the Georgetown campus, doing an incredible job. Locker Room, welcome, Kevin Comp. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, I am fantastic. I'm kind of nervous.
Yeah,
I've been thinking about this for a few days, and just kind of not as nervous as I was in my prior episode of the Locker Room. I feel like kind of like Chris Farley in the Chris Farley show. Like, do you remember that other Scott that used to do the podcast, Scott Nickel? He was awesome.
He is awesome. That's right.
Do you know him?
I do. Absolutely. Hey, it's crazy, man. Two guys from Fairdale end up on the Locker Room podcast. Who'd ever thunk it, right?
Yeah. I feel like I'm always just a sentence away from being fired. So,
well, let's not do that today. Okay?
No. I've heard that's a no-no. Anyway, it's incredible, like your story, just growing up with you and knowing you in middle school. Yeah. Knowing Chris Johnstone and how much he befriended you and was close to you and a family for you, and then to see you, what I really think about those days is when you first started coming to church because we got you on the basketball team. Yeah,
you did.
And
you did.
It was kind of you're on the basketball team, so you have to come to church once a week, and you're like,
a rule.
What?
I know.
And and it was just awesome. Because. Scott won't tell you this, but he was an incredible athlete. He was a D1 track star for U of L.
Glory days.
Yeah.
As my
Can
wife
you
would say.
still jump like that?
I can jump a little bit. No. Had a 42-inch vertical at the time. Probably have a 22-inch vertical now.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Well, I don't know.
I have a hard time getting up steps.
No, those are glory days, man.
Yeah.
But it's great to have you on the podcast. This is your second time, and you did one a while back with Nickel, and it's been a minute. So I thought it'd be good just for our Locker Room audience, again, because, so many of our men go to their own campus, and they don't always they don't get a chance to see other campuses. So I wanted them to get a chance to get to know you. And so tell us a little bit about yourself growing up, a little bit about your family, how you came to know the Lord. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So did not grow up in a church. Yeah. I was baptized Episcopalian, went to a couple different churches for 2-3 week long periods or Christmas, Easter. Yeah. Went to a Methodist church, Mount Holly.
Man, you went
Methodist
to a lot of them.
Church. Yeah, when I was in elementary school. I don't remember a lot of it. Part of middle school, like just here and there, and never really understood a relationship with Jesus. Yeah. And then we showed up for Fairdale Christian Church because the pastor at the time, Ron Davidson, was into horses. And I grew up on a horse farm with a horse country western store my parents owned.
Yeah.
And Ron Davidson kept inviting my family to church.
That's cool.
And so finally we went, and they had a potluck.
Yeah.
And that thing was amazing, man.
Yeah, potlucks are good.
They ran out of fried chicken, and they went to go get some more at the KFC.
Yeah.
And I'll just never forget that day. It was pretty. But we met a guy named Phil Miller, who was on your show a few weeks ago, battling cancer, and awesome dude. Changed my life, discipled me, yelled at me a lot. You know, is that
sometimes we need that?
Yeah,
he yelled at me too.
He would just shared his life with us. I mean, probably almost lost his marriage because of us.
We spent a lot of time over there.
Yeah, broke a lot of his stuff.
They had young kids. I don't know how they would let us do that. Yeah. I can't imagine.
I don't think
kids
Marcia
coming into my house and doing.
Marcia was but you know what? She'd get mad at us, and then she'd go make cookies for us. So you can't. You know, she loved us, and so thankful for them. Constantly praying for them. Right now.
When did you come to know Christ? How old were you?
It was after my 8th grade year, right before my freshman year of high school. I got baptized in August of that year.
Was there something that led to that? Was it a conversation with Phil? Was it something that, did you go to camp? Was there anything, what drove you to make that decision?
It was a culmination of things, but I think the biggest thing was camp. I was down at a week of camp at White Mills Christian Church camp.
Great place.
Camp. And it was just, it was life-changing.
Yeah.
You know? John Welsh leading some worship, and he's a Lexington boy now anyway. But,
cool.
We had just, great teaching and stuff, and just felt like God, was real. I mean, he was calling me to him. And so got baptized that August. And then it was a process, though, of discipleship over years. Because I didn't just all of a sudden quit cussing, quit, using tobacco products, and quit, whatever. I was kind of a real rough around the edges. So that was a process, and I still struggle with things to this day. But I am thankful to know Jesus.
Yeah, Kevin, it's really cool because your story, my story, eventually collides in your story, and I didn't have any clue about this, but in middle school, God put me around some great young men. And I don't know that I even knew Christians at the time, and you were one of those guys. And we've known each other now for 40 years. Yeah. It's crazy, man. You and your twin brother Keith, Chris Johnstone, you guys prayed for me, encouraged me. You always made me feel valued, and you were trying to help me know Jesus, and you were trying to get me to church. What do you remember about that? Because I know for Chris, he invited me to church for 3.5 years straight before I ever said yes. And it was part of going and watch you guys playing basketball at Shively, that gym.
Yeah.
I watched you guys, and you guys were terrible at the time. And I was like, man,
really bad.
They suck.
Well, I mean, if they're watching the video right now, they can probably do the math on that one.
But
the mound round of rebound, Kevin Comp.
But I kept thinking, while I was watching it, there's so much. It's funny. There's so much pride, but I was a big believer in my abilities, and I kept thinking, man, they need me. And then after it was over, Chris said, hey, do you want to join our team? And I literally said, yeah, you guys need me. And then he said, that's awesome, man. He said, but you got to go to church once a week. And I was like, oh, man. And he's like, hey, what would it hurt? And I thought, man, all he's ever been is my friend. And I've gotten to know you guys, and I got to know I knew the coach, Rodney James, who's a great man, and he's such a good man in our lives. And so I thought, you know what, why not? But what do you remember about kind of that when I started kind of coming to church and trying to figure all that out? I mean, you knew a little bit of my story, a little bit about my family, and kind of the waywardness of me. What was that like for you?
Well, it's funny because I remember 8th grade in Lassiter.
Yep.
Or I'm sorry, it was 7th grade in Lassiter.
Yep.
Wasn't a Christian.
Yep.
I was foul mouthed. I mean, just terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know Jesus, and I remember that. For me, that awkward tension of being around you after giving my life to Christ and trying to be a witness to you,
sure,
and thinking, man, I've really laid a bad foundation here. But I just remember you were really fun to be around.
Yeah.
Laughed a lot, cut up a bunch, and we had a good time. And I remember those moments when you played on our basketball team and you would dunk during warm-ups and get a technical for that.
Yeah.
And you and Rick Lacefield. You remember Ricky?
I do.
And but I remember just everybody in that youth group wanting you to know the peace and the grace of Jesus. Just knowing your background and your family life and what you've shared, just to know Jesus is there for you and that, you know, he really changed my life that summer after my 8th grade year, and I wanted you to know that too, and it really caused me to want to be a better example. You know.
No, that's good. I'm so thankful for the people that God's put in my life, and you've definitely been one of those guys, and super grateful. I'm thankful that we get to serve Jesus and we get to serve together at a great church, and let's shift into kind of your family now. Talk a little bit about your family that's around you, that lives under your roof. Who are these people? How long you been married? Talk about your kids.
Married to Stacy, 23 years. 23, going to be 24 this next summer. And I got married on the year 2000.
Okay.
So that way I never have to guess what it's awesome. Yeah. And I recommend it for everybody. Just wait till a round number that you can remember.
There it is.
There's your marriage advice.
You big dumb men. That's right. That's right. You can't do math anyway.
So been married, and she's just awesome. She's so wise. She lets me know when I'm about to do something stupid, which is, you know.
She's not afraid of you.
No.
Which is good.
No, I'm afraid of her.
Yeah, that's right.
Have you ever seen her mad?
She's a little woman, but man, absolutely.
She's like 110 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
And, I'm scared to death of her. Anyway, my kids are too. Like they say, I'll ask them, who you most afraid of when your parents get mad? And they're like, oh, mom. Yeah, definitely mom.
Yeah, that's funny.
And I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you.
Yeah. So my oldest son is Levi.
Yeah.
He's 17, driving, working at Big B Coffee.
Yeah.
And he's a great kid, straight A student, loves the Lord, super strong-willed, independent.
Yeah.
And I think it's paybacks from my childhood. And
that does give us the mirror.
And my mom would always laugh at him when he would just say things that were independent or smart aleck.
Right.
And she'd be like, oh, this is glorious. You know, you're getting paid back. I'm like, that's a terrible thing to wish on me, Mom.
That's right.
But
Mom.
my other son, middle child, is Joel.
Yeah.
And he is my mini-me.
Yeah.
He's hilarious. He's so quick-witted. He's very funny and just loves life.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just a joy. And I always called him the glue. When I'm talking to all three of them, I say, Joel's the glue. He holds this family together in so many ways. And he's kind and he loves his mom. He always tells me he loves her more than me, which is just to keep me humble. And I think he means it, but it's also keeping me humble. And then Emery is my youngest and my daughter.
Little girl, yeah.
Yeah, she's 11 years old. She just had a birthday, and she is awesome, and she loves her dad. And I think I'm her favorite. She won't say it, but I think I am.
I think so.
I think I've got the win on that. But
it's unspoken.
She's like her mother. She kind of corrects me quite a bit.
Does she?
Oh yeah, she lets me have it. She's sassy.
Yeah.
Like I got her birthday card. And it was like the big word "sassy" on the front because she just is.
She's got it.
She's a great kid. All my kids do pretty well in school. Yeah. And they're fun to be around. My daughter loves to dance. My son Joel just loves video games. Yeah. My kid, I mean, it's like constantly. Yeah. Joel, what are you doing?
It's a gamer.
Get off the games. Cut it out. Go outside. Try and get some vitamin D.
Climb a tree. Do something fun.
You look like powder.
You see that big orange thing in the sky? It's good for you. Go look at it. That's right. That's good. And Emery, what grade?
She's in 5th grade.
5th grade, okay. Yeah. We have daughters. My youngest two are 11, and so we have daughters the same age, so that's really, really cool. You have great kids, and, you know, we're not going to spend too much time here, but you guys do a great job of investing in your marriage and also with your kids. Talk a little bit about just what that's been like for you all. You got 3, you're outnumbered. You got 2 boys, 1 girl. What's it like? Invest in your marriage, what you and Stacy do, and then how do you guys invest in your kids? Some ways that you do that?
I think it's like time where we just are super honest. I mean, I've apologized to my kids multiple times because I'm not a perfect parent. I don't say all the right things or do all the. I lose my temper. I get angry. and at the same time, we take those moments as teachable. Like you need forgiveness, and you need to ask to be forgiven. You need humility, and we capture those teachable moments. That's kind of where I direct things. My wife is a really good listener. I am not, but my wife is really good at listening to anything they want to talk about. She believes I'm going to be there and listen to that because it's important to them. And so it could be about video games or girl drama or whatever. And she's just listening. And then she can give this really great godly advice. But for me, it's those moments where they mess up or something good happens, and we teach them.
Celebrating them.
Those teachable moments of where God's intervening in our faith and how it, so they give me a hard time about being pastor dad. They'll be like, Dad, can you just be dad and not a pastor? I don't know if you ever get that. Like, can you not preach to us? And so I get a little bit of that sometimes. But otherwise, we really teach unconditional love. In our home, like there's nothing you can do that would, cause it. That doesn't mean you're not going to get in trouble, or lose things, or there's consequences. But we just teach to love in spite of those things, and take the lump. I always tell my boys that sometimes you got to take the lump and take your beating and accept it. Change your behavior.
That's right.
So
that's right.
I don't actually beat my children. If anybody.
It was figurative. I knew what you meant. But you never know. People listen.
I grew up in Fairdale, so it'd be okay.
That's right. Many beatings back in the day.
Many beatings.
Well, you've been on staff for a couple of years now on the Georgetown campus. And before we get to Georgetown, just talk about what it's been like to be on our team. We have a great team, but talk about just your vantage point, what you see, and what you think about our team as we operate together in unison to try to just bring the gospel to people and the Great Commission. What has that been like for you?
Well, it's been amazing. I mean, I've had a long history of being in 5-6 different churches, and I loved them all great people, wonderful experiences for the most part. I mean, there's always your stuff, but I love Southland, man. I feel like I've hit the jackpot with this church because the staff is just fun to be around. They love each other. Our Georgetown staff specifically, we care about one another. We want to serve one another. And then just the leadership that we have in this church is so humble and easy to talk to, and they care about you. I've had elders come up to me that I didn't know because they go to a different campus and just share that they're visiting to support me, and they're loving, and Steve and I'm trying to think, Scott, Haga, all those guys been super awesome, and then just to know John and Scott and just their humility. I mean, they really are regular guys,
regular dudes, man.
It's
really gifted.
So I love the teaching. I love the worship. I love the heartbeat for loving God and loving people. It's just so easy. And not always easy to do, but it's easy to understand. That's our mission, And so that humility, I think, is contagious. And it with the leaders having it, it's transferable to us to be humble too, and to make sure we're loving people in the right way when we're out and about, and not thinking much of ourselves, which I've never really done that, but I'm pretty awesome. So
it is a healthy culture, and humility drives what we do, and it's our protection, it's our shield, it's what grows the best things of what God wants us to be about and do. And so it's a great place. We're so strategic. We're not a perfect church by any stretch of the means, but man, I love what we do, and I love how we serve people, and I love how we love people, and it's awesome having you join on our team. Hey, before we jump into the Georgetown campus, I thought I'd share a couple funny stories. Okay.
Hey, this isn't the one where you pantsed me, is it?
No,
you brought that out on the air.
We've talked about that.
It was supposed to be like a secret club organization.
I wasn't. I know I wasn't going to bring it up today.
We're not going to talk about the story. You can go back and listen to Brian Lucas' podcast where he pantsed me while I was shooting a compound bow. The only part I wanted to edit on that was that I hit the target.
You did hit the target. You were like a sniper.
My pants were down. You pantsed me. And I aimed and hit the target 30 yards away, whatever it was.
I thought I was just getting sweatpants.
Yeah, and you got it all.
I got it all.
And we were in the country. It was rural. There's just a couple dudes there. It was fine, but it was
still waiting on you to get me back. I've always got a belt on. even when I wear shorts. Anyway,
You just walk around all nervous.
oh man, yeah, buddy, you're so fun. But right after Kevin joined our team, we had an all worship night at the Lexington campus, and if you've ever been, it's incredible. It's an outdoor event. It's in July, August. It's awesome. All 5 of our campuses come together. We don't get to do that, so we were able to do that on these nights, and it's such a cool thing to watch people worship and see people with their different campus shirts on and to see people connect. It's an awesome night. And I was overseeing the campus team at the time, so we were in charge of all the baptisms that would happen that night. And basically once the worship started, then people could come over if they wanted to do that. And so it's become a really cool thing where people are excited about that. And so we had lots of staff on my team that was responsible for the baptisms. And so we would have people that were there just to talk to people to make sure that they understood what they were doing. We had people helping people get in and out of a portable baptistry because there's lots of steps, and it was kind of not the easiest thing to get in and out of. We had people with towels. We set up and tore down, all of that. But we had different staff members take turns being baptizers. And this event's like 90 minutes, and we had baptisms happening most of the time. And we had a number of baptisms. We could have 30, 40 baptisms throughout the evening. And Kevin, we picked, we were kind of trying to figure out who do we want in the water, just different people, different staff. Want to give people opportunities to do that. And you were new, so we thought we'll put them in. And so you just happened to be last in line that evening, and Kevin gets in the water, and we've had a lot of baptisms, and he's brand new. His family's there, and what a cool opportunity as a new staff member to get to baptize people at worship night. He's our last baptizer, and, you just don't know. There's not a line, so people just kind of walk up, and so eventually there was this younger girl that came, and she walked up, and she was talking to somebody just to make sure that she was good as far as understanding the decision she was making. And then right before she gets in the water, she asked Tiffany Jacobs of our Danville campus to baptize her. And so we had to go, hey, Kevin, get out. And so Tiffany ended up doing the final baptism. So
I did not do a single baptism.
So he didn't do a single
I stood in the water for like 12 minutes, didn't do a single baptism.
Just looking at people going, come on, let's do this. I'm here. It's going to be awesome. It was like we had this relief, this great relief pitcher come in to wrap up the game. And you were warmed up, you were ready, and you were excited. And then as soon as we get somebody get in the batting box, the manager comes out to the mound and goes, no, we're going to go grab the right-hander with the curly hair. Yeah,
that's right. Lucy yanked the football right out.
Yes. Yeah. What else do you remember? What was your vantage point? Well,
first of all, everybody giving me a hard time. You guys have had a blast with that for the last 2 years. I remember feeling a little bit silly and just being really angry at Tiffany.
Yeah, were you?
Jacob. Oh, yeah. I mean, what's the big deal about her?
That's
right.
She
has pretty hair and gives great hugs, and but I do those things. I have beautiful hair.
Yeah, that's right.
I give great hugs, but there she was doing all the baptisms. I mean, she had already done like a dozen. Everybody wanted her to do the baptism. It made me so mad.
JR's over here laughing.
It's been like I said, it's been a running joke for the staff. I mean, even it caught on that Nico and John will give me a hard time about baptisms. Not so much John, because John, but Nico loves to tease me about it, like we don't do baptisms at Georgetown.
That's
because of that experience.
Yeah.
So swing and a miss. And I'm fine with Tiffany.
Did you work it out with the Lord?
Worked it out with the Lord.
That's good.
And for the most part, I think Tiffany Jacobs and I are fine.
Well, that's good because her husband's he's a sniper and he could kill you.
That's mainly why I'm fine. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I've seen him and heard about him, and I'm like, I don't want to.
You should be really fine.
Yes.
You should be fine with this. That's right.
She's awesome.
She is great.
Awesome.
She's the best.
I'd get her to baptize me again.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we thought you were going to need it after sitting out for 12 minutes. Nobody wanted to come. Anyway, we'll stay in the same lane.
And wait,
yes.
real quick.
Yeah.
The worship night this past year, y'all were putting me in.
Yeah.
And I really felt like y'all were conspiring to let nobody get baptized during that time. That would be a terrible thing to do, spiritually speaking. I mean, it would be wrong. But I was thinking they're not going to let anybody get baptized while I'm in here just to mess with me.
Dude,
you didn't. I got to baptize some people this year at worship night.
It was
great.
That's good. Well, so another funny baptism thing was, so when I ran the campus ministry team, we would, on Tuesdays, I'd get together with all the campus pastors. We'd have a meeting. We'd talk through things. We'd celebrate what God's doing. We would talk about just specific things at our campuses. We'd do leadership stuff. We'd collaborate on new initiatives or new campus events that we were working on. And before that Tuesday meeting, I was looking over our baptisms from the week, and we get an email saying, "Hey, here's how many people we had, and here's how many baptisms we had, and so it's cool to be able to look at those. And we had a lot of baptisms that weekend, and I noticed that we had baptisms everywhere except for Georgetown. And so I set you up. But at some point in the meeting, I was like, man, we had a lot of baptisms this weekend. And I said, Greg's the campus pastor at Nicholasville campus. I said, hey, man, how many did you have in Nicholasville? He said 6. I said, that's awesome, man. I said, Brian, how many did you guys have in Danville? He said 4. I said, so cool. That's awesome. Kerner, how many did you guys have in Richmond? He said 5. I said, that's incredible. I said, Jason, how many did you guys have in Lexington? He said 7. I said, that's amazing. And then I looked at you acting like I didn't know, and I said, hey, man, how many did you guys have in Georgetown this weekend? And you said, we didn't have any. I said, you didn't have any? And you were like, no. And I'm like, and so we just piled on you. Jeez, bro, get in the game. Do you guys have a baptistry in Georgetown? Baptisms are kind of important to Jesus. We were just messing with you.
We refer him to a local church in the area that has a baptistry.
Is that right?
Yeah. So we do have to set it up. So,
Yes. You guys have had a ton of baptisms, and you were just telling me even some cool stories about some recently with some people that you guys have been able to invest in. God's doing an awesome work in Georgetown.
Yeah.
You guys believe in baptism. It's been awesome. But you've done it. You have a great personality. You're fun to get after because you can take it and you can give it. But you've added a lot of joy to our organization, and Georgetown really is blessed to have you at the campus. Share a little bit about the campus, the distinctiveness, the uniqueness of the campus, what you love about the people there, and even the team that you get to serve with. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, I'd say our volunteers are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the best people at the doors on Sunday morning, behind the soundboard and lights on Sunday morning, on the stage, back with our kids, working with our student ministry. We just have amazing people in Georgetown.
That's great.
And I think it's a big part of that is the staff that we've had there that are serving and
culture.
loving on those. It's just a very healthy culture, and it was one that I did not bring in. Like people think, wow, he's must be such a great leader because these people are just so like Jesus-like in their servitude. Sure. And I'm like, no, I was told when I got there, hey, this is how we do it.
Yeah,
I remember Kelsey and Ian and those guys, hey, we get up and we carry waters in for the team, even if it's not our ministry doing it. Like, so if Dottie pulls her little truck up with a thing full of waters and we got to unload them, we go out there and help her. Yeah. You know, we don't pretend like, hey, do that on your own. So we're a team
and a family.
Yeah. So that we have to protect that and guard that because, of course, there's times where it's busy or overwhelming and you just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
But Jesus said to wash the feet of your people, and I don't think that always means you go by what it feels like. You go by what Jesus said to do, and it's serve. So we do that really well. We try to hold each other accountable to that, and we've had our moments where we say, "Hey, let's do better at this," or "Let's."
Sure.
We got this thing coming up where we need to really prepare our hearts to just suck it up and do it, and so it's been really good and great staff. A couple of them have moved over to here. Yeah, Daniel and Ian and we're all one church. Yeah, and so I love them being here, serving the whole. But the people that we get in their place, just awesome. Yeah, I mean they just continue and. The same teammates say, "Hey, this is how we function. We wash feet. Yeah. We serve one another, and when we start somebody off that way, they understand. That's our culture."
Side note, just as as I'm thinking about this, I've spent some time talking to Chad, your worship guy, and he, I was just asking about the culture, and he said, "Man, I'll be honest. He was a volunteer, just coming to church before he joined our team." I said, "Hey, tell me about the significance of the campus." He said, "Man, I'll be honest with you." He said, "The people, the staff, Kevin you all just impressed him so much that he was willing to leave what he was currently doing to come join our team to serve in such a way." And he does a great job too. But
yeah, he's awesome.
You really have a great team, and so that's been really, really cool. And I want to make a quick kind of a commercial announcement before we get into our 2 words for today. I wanted to let the Georgetown campus know that I'm coming in January to lead the Men Through Fight Club. You and I will do that together. It's a 15-week curriculum, and I wrote it about 4 years ago. I'm super excited about coming to partner with you, Kevin, and Seth as well, to take some men at Georgetown the campus through it. And I know that you and Ian have gone through. You did one particularly with a smaller group of guys, and then just maybe a year ago, you guys had a pretty decent group of guys come through. But talk a little bit about just Fight Club, the material, its impact on men at your campus, what you've seen God do, and how they've grown through just being able to kind of walk through that.
Yeah, so we did it last year. I think we had about 60 guys that went through it. You know, you had like 85 to 100 that signed up, but 60 there on a regular basis, and we had a blast. I mean, we did it on Thursday night, so we even did we do it on?
I think so.
Yeah, it was Thursday nights because we did Thursday night football one night and just did wings and football.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was a good group of guys. It was, you know, the material is great. I've been through it 2 times now, and I'm looking forward to going through it again. And I think that's the key thing for people to know is even if you've already been through it, hey, go through it again, but this time bring your cousin or your brother or your neighbor, and because it's life-changing. We've had many guys that it turned their life around. I think that identity piece of knowing that you're God's and he loves you and you're a son that he cares about and that he's proud of, I think that's something that men need to hear to really just transform them into being the leaders in their home. All the things that all the things we're supposed to be fighting for as men, that curriculum calls us to do. It's just awesome. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to having you down there.
Dude, it'll be so fun, and it's so cool seeing all these tables. I mean, we got 2 weeks before we wrap up Nicholasville, and it's been phenomenal. Almost 30, I think 36 tables of guys. It's been incredible. I love getting to do this, and it'll be fun to get to do this with you. And you know, you've done it without me, which has been awesome. That's really the hope, is that we've got different people at campuses that can kind of carry the water of teaching some of this. But yeah, I'm excited about coming. We'll be there in January. We'll let you know how to do that at the end of the podcast, but. Dude, thanks for sharing a little bit about yourself. Thanks for getting me laughing this morning. It's so good to spend time with you. We're going to dive into our 2 words, and our 2 words for today are even if. Even if. And it may take us a little time to kind of unpack what those 2 words are, but they're critical for us as men. And the thing that this story will draw out of us is a relentless courage to take a stand in a world where there are very few people standing. And I say this a lot if you're a Christian, a lot of the men's stuff that I do, we are playing in an away game. You know, this isn't home team anymore. There was a day when the church was the predominant influence in the culture. You go in all these small towns and you find these churches that are right in the town square. But things have changed. And in the U.S., the church has slowly but surely lost its grip on influence in the community. The church went from being the popular mindset that drove the values of culture to now being pushed out to the out of the seat of influence in our nation. And it's funny because Nickel just talked about this past weekend, that it's been a slow burn, but the churches of the past had favor in the community and in our nation, but the enemy has done significant work to turn everything upside down. And now the church is being pushed to the margins, and it's no longer warmly met, but now met with a lot of vitriol and a lot of resistance. And so this story that we're going to talk about took place 600 years before Jesus was even born. And though this story is thousands of years old, it couldn't be more relevant to us today in the times that we're living in as it relates to the state of our culture and the state of the church. And so I want to start by just giving us a definition of this Greek word that we find in the New Testament for confidence. And if you're watching, you'll be able to see this. But basically, this Greek word is hypostasis, and it's the Greek word for confidence. And it's a word formed by 2 words, stasis, to stand up, and hypo, to stand under, which means that which stands up under anything that comes its way because you have a strong foundation. There's this substance to a person, this confidence that they have because they're standing on something that's strong. And it speaks about courageous confidence and resolve and perseverance and grit, this steadfastness, this firm foundation, the strength of conviction to stand regardless of whatever's going on and whatever your circumstances are. And I love this story, and I've been meditating on it since I took over locker room this year and been trying to figure out where do we drop this one. And I really wanted to do this with you today, and I wanted us to be able to kind of teach through this story together. So this may look a little different than some of the other times when we've had guests on, but Kevin and I are going to kind of walk through this big passage together. Enough setup. In 605 BC, King Nebuchadnezzar, big word, of Babylon, he besieges and takes over Jerusalem in Judah. And the king takes a bunch of the very best Jewish teenagers there. He takes them captive. And And along with those that we know of in the scriptures, Daniel is one of them. And then there are three other guys that King Nebuchadnezzar takes into captivity. And their names are Hananiah. But in all three of these guys, their name gets changed, and I'll explain in a second. But Hananiah gets renamed Shadrach. Mishael becomes Meshach. And Azariah becomes Abednego. And they were enrolled in the King's Leadership Academy. But basically, the mindset is when you take over a place, you want to grab the best people and put them under your reign so that they can also be the go-between, and they'll leverage your influence. And because they're of that specific nation and town, that they will kind of be an in-between for you and the people that you're now reigning over. But basically, King Nebuchadnezzar puts them in his academy. He gives them new names. He gives them new identities. He forces them to learn a new culture, new languages. He introduces them to a whole bunch of new so-called gods. And these young guys who have been raised to honor God are now in exile. And they've been taken captivity by a completely pagan nation and ruler. And they refused to allow their souls to be taken captive. That's the cool thing in all of this. And so they're now playing an away game. They've been defeated by King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon, and now they are under Babylon's heavy rule. And Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego have now been shown favor by the one true God, and he's put them actually in close proximity to the king, this pagan king. And to talk about him for a second, King Nebuchadnezzar was a piece of work. The only thing that extended beyond the borders of his immense kingdom was his ego. Very prideful man, very prideful leader. If you want to see a lesson in pride and humility and how God could humble the proud, read Daniel chapter 2. I guarantee it's a message that you want to learn from this book and not have to learn in your own experiences with the Lord. King Nebuchadnezzar is brought low by God, and he's taught a big lesson in humility. And the chapter ends this way in Daniel 2, 46 through 47. Then King Nebuchadnezzar threw himself down before Daniel and worshiped Daniel. And he commanded his people to offer sacrifices and burn sweet incense before him. And the king said to Daniel, "Truly, your God is the greatest of gods, the Lord of kings, a revealer of mysteries, for you have been able to reveal the secret." And so King Nebuchadnezzar acknowledges Daniel, even worships him. What a weird thing. He's open to Daniel as a leader. He's maybe less curious about the God that Daniel worships, but he speaks highly of the God that Daniel serves. But this lesson is short-lived. And so, Kevin, why don't you get us started, dig out this text in Daniel chapter 3, and we'll kind of talk through this together.
Yeah. So in verse 1, it says, King Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide and set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. And that's huge. Yeah. I mean, that is a big monument to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of ego to even come up with that. I mean, you got a couple of notes here on some popular statues in our nation. Yeah, the United States Marine Corps Iwo Jima Memorial is 68 feet tall.
Okay.
And remember, Nebuchadnezzar's 90 feet tall, so bigger than that. Yeah. The Atlas in Manhattan, New York, 45 feet tall. The Lincoln Memorial, it's just a little bit bigger. But I don't think Lincoln commissioned that. I don't think Lincoln's like, I'd like a big seat of myself there. But it's crazy. I mean, I wanted a bobblehead, like a custom bobblehead of myself once. Yes. But I never thought I need a gold. And it was made of gold. It's not like it was, I mean, it had some different materials, but there was gold on it. That's a big statue. He made an enormous, he had a big head. Yeah. He was pretty cocky.
Yeah, big time. Big time.
There's just a level of arrogance. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I would have had a custom-made bobblehead or something like that. But this guy, 90 feet of gold. So Nebuchadnezzar was hoping this huge statue, would unite the nation of Babylon. Like he was wanting to solidify and centralize their worship because it came from different pagan worship gods and all that.
Very strategic,
And so he was trying to get them all to worship one, and it happened to just be. Now, it doesn't say that the statue was him.
Right.
But I'm guessing.
It looked a little like him.
I bet it had a slight resemblance.
Absolutely.
So everyone was going to worship this idol.
Yeah.
Everybody. He was going to unite the country. In Daniel 3, 2 through 6, it says, Then he sent messengers to the high officers, officials, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the provincial officials to come to the dedication of the statue he had set up. So all these officials came and stood before the statue King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald shouted out, which I like heralds.
That's right. That's right.
People of all races and nations and languages, listen to the king's command. When you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harp, the pipes, and other musical instruments, bow to the ground to worship King Nebuchadnezzar's gold statue. See, that's why I think it was probably an image of him.
I do too.
Anyone who refuses to obey will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace.
Jeez, man. I mean, he's setting up a false god, and there was obviously political pressure and intimidation to embrace it. And he's bringing all nations and races and languages together, and they're going to bow down and they're going to worship it. And truly, they're going to worship him. And this was an allscape. Thousands of people gathered from all over to come and be a part of this big dedication. And the command was, when the band plays, everybody bows down. And faces on the ground, and you worship King Nebuchadnezzar, and you embrace his reign. And if not, then there are lethal consequences. This is way bigger than getting canceled or suspended from social media or even losing your job because you don't align with the sexual or gendered ethic of the day. Bow down and worship or experience grave consequences.
Yeah, so Daniel 3:7, he says, so at the sound of the musical instruments, all the people, whatever their race or nation or language, bowed to the ground and worshiped the gold statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Now, most people in Babylon culture were polytheistic anyway. They believed in multiple gods. They had a grain god and a fertility god and a god for war and a god of the sun and a god of, they had gods for everything. I mean, and so it's no problem to worship another one.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to do? Okay. All right. We'll just add one more in, right?
Yeah. Here a God, there a God, everywhere God.
That's right.
So no big deal. And so especially under the threat of hey, I'm gonna set you on fire. Yeah. I'm gonna burn you alive. Okay. Capital punishment.
Okay. I'll bow.
Yeah. So it was a big deal to some who worshiped the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Yahweh, Elohim. Right. I mean. It was a big deal, because in his commandment, God said there is one God. Yeah. It's me.
That's right.
And this is, and you're not to make an image of me.
That's right.
And so this is a big thing for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yeah. I want you to picture the plains of Dura in your minds. Okay. Just this picture, there are all these officials, all these people waiting for their cue. And when the band plays, they would fall down in unison and worship this idol, this image of gold. And so as the music starts, the horizon goes flat. Everybody bowing except these three guys. Just imagine the silhouette of that moment and seeing these three people standing among the many that were bowing down, and all three were standing at the risk of their own lives. I mean, and you and I talked about this. They probably weren't out in the crowds. They probably were not far from King Nebuchadnezzar. So when the music plays, everybody else goes down on their face, but not those three.
They were probably in a position where they were establishing an example.
Yes.
They were leadership.
Yeah.
And so leading over those provinces. So, the whole crowd would have maybe peeked up and saw, what?
Yeah. And so, and you need to know this. There's been some time that's passed. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego showing up. They're not fresh-faced teenagers anymore from Judah. They are now men who have held high positions, again, as you said, over the provinces of Babylon, and men who would have had years to adapt to the culture, to choose to conform and fit in, years to fade in their own relationship with God. It would have been easy for them to feel like, God was no longer relevant. The God that they served before was no longer relevant to their lives. I mean, look what was going on. Where was he? And because now they lead in this other area, but not so with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And when the music played, everyone bowed except these three. And it would have been evident to all around for those who stood. And you would have stood out figuratively and physically. And I'm guessing that there were others that didn't bow, but we don't hear about them in the scriptures. But there are these three that brought on attention to those who didn't like them. And we won't read this passage, but Daniel 3, 8 through 12, it says some astrologers, they basically narc on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to the king. They're like, hey, just want you to know this. They didn't bow. And they were jealous of the favor that they experienced from King Nebuchadnezzar, and that favor came from God. But in their jealousy, they wanted to put an end to those three. And for us personally, you may never face a fiery furnace in your life, but I bet there are some of you right now that are enduring the heat of jealousy in your life. someone doesn't like you because you got the promotion or you got that raise or you are close to this specific person on your team at work, or maybe you made the team or the squad and somebody didn't, or maybe you're the teacher's favorite or the coach's favorite, or maybe you got a scholarship and they didn't, or you seem to do everything so effortlessly, even though that's not true. That just seems that way to other people and they're jealous. Or maybe you get to go places other people don't, or maybe you have more than someone else. And right now, someone is looking at you through the green-eyed monster of envy, hoping, wishing that something bad would happen to you to bring you down so that they might be raised up. This was going on with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And I'm not sure where Daniel is in this moment. I don't doubt that I don't think he stood. I just don't know where he is in the story. But he had them, Daniel had them promoted, and now they're standing without their leader, Daniel, but not without their God. And in that moment, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had to lean on and trust the one true God. So pick up the story, Kevin.
Yeah. So then Nebuchadnezzar, verse 13, flew into a rage and ordered that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought before him. And when they were brought in, Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you refuse to serve my gods or to worship the gold statue I've set up? I will give you one more chance to bow down and worship the statue I have made when you hear the sound of the musical instruments. But if you refuse, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. And then what God will be able to rescue you from my power?" Now, I think that Shadrach had feelings for these guys. I think he liked them.
King Nebuchadnezzar had feelings for them.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
King Nebuchadnezzar had
He liked them, no doubt.
He had to. One, because he's given them a chance.
Yeah.
Like there's a second chance.
Yeah.
I think most people, if they'd have been standing, they would have been chucked right into the furnace. But these guys, he's like, "No, come on, guys. Don't embarrass me in front of everybody."
Yes.
Like everybody.
Yeah.
And so he's asked them, and they've refused for the second time to bow down and worship him. And that's he's kind of, upset at this point.
Absolutely.
So he gives them one more chance, and we're gonna wash our hands of this and all be forgotten.
Yeah.
But if you don't, he's gonna be mad.
Yeah. He says, what God would be able to rescue you from my power? I mean, he's so puffed up. And King Nebuchadnezzar was not acknowledging his power, and it almost as if it was greater than any god. And his gods had absolutely no power to do anything because they weren't really gods. They didn't exist. But it's crazy how quickly King Nebuchadnezzar had forgotten the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I mean, you see how quickly he had forgotten about God who revealed this dream in again, Daniel chapter 2. We didn't talk about it, but it's what humbles King Nebuchadnezzar, which should have opened him up to the God that Daniel served, the God that taught him this unforgettable lesson of humility. God humbles the king. He actually drives him insane. He turns him out to the pasture, and he makes him eat grass like a cow before restoring his sanity and his position. But the king has a short memory, man. So to think that he would forget about the God that did that is unthinkable to me, but maybe he was just more impressed with Daniel than he was with Daniel's God. And I found it interesting that when Daniel told him the dream, the king didn't bow down and worship God then. He bowed down and worshiped Daniel. He promoted Daniel, not God. And he had people burn incense and offer sacrifices to Daniel, but not God. And Daniel had been very clear and very careful to deflect any credit. It wasn't about him, it was about God. And so when King Nebuchadnezzar says, "And then what God will be able to rescue from my power," I wonder if God, Yahweh, raised an eyebrow like the rock and shook his head and smiled.
Okay, all right.
You kidding me? All right. You forgotten me?
I mean,
all right, King, game on.
He was very egotistical. I don't think he was real bright.
I don't either.
Because he's assuming that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are just going to bow down to a grave
on power.
And I get it. I mean, I've borrowed someone's really nice truck, and as I'm driving around, I can feel like the confidence and the cockiness of that moment. Right?
Heated seats. Yeah,
seriously,
awesome.
Or somebody gives me great seats at a UK game, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm big time." I'm not big time. I don't own these seats.
Yeah.
I got lucky, and so this guy though has people that worship him. He's got all this power and wealth. He's conquered countries.
They'll die for him.
He is
They'll kill for him.
full of himself and forgets the moment when he ate grass like a wild animal, which is crazy.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
So you want me to continue with this?
You hit Daniel 3. Yeah.
All right. Verse 16 through 18. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up.
Wow. And
he did. That was just a bold moment. And there had to have been, I mean, were they close enough to the furnace in that moment to feel like the heat of it, like they knew what it was like? Because this is probably the furnace that they used to make the 90-foot statue. It was probably a pretty big, and they weren't trying to be disrespectful here because they said, Your Majesty.
Yeah, they were kind.
Right? They were very, but hey, we're not going to bow down to your God.
Kind but resolved.
Yeah. And you know our character, you know how well we've served you, but we cannot do this. We're not going to worship any God but Yahweh. And so they drew a line, right there in the sand before him. They had drawn that line a long time ago. But you would have thought Nebuchadnezzar would have known these guys well enough and what they did believe.
Who they are, their character.
Yeah, that he would have said, hey, you guys stay in the back room so that nobody sees you not bow, because I know you're never going to bow.
Yeah.
But he didn't. And so he's trying to make an example of him, and it backfires. And I think this is a lot of where King Nebuchadnezzar's anger comes from.
Yeah.
After that moment, that second rejection, he's like, oh, I'm so mad. And so then he blazes up the furnace,
Yeah. The God whom we serve is able. He has the power. This is what they're saying. In case you've forgotten, O king, he gave you your kingdom. And, I can see Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego going, our God can read minds. He can reveal secrets. He's done that. He controls the tides. He stores the thunder in places no one has ever been. He knows every star, every grain of sand, and every hair on your head. He's the inventor of chlorophyll and photosynthesis. He's the maker of noses and DNA. He can make mountains into molehills, and he's not just 90 feet tall. Our God can wade into the deepest ocean and still be ankle deep. He can play marbles with the planets if he wanted to. He is supreme. He is sovereign. He's the giver of all good gifts. He is the one who put the capacity to love and laugh and cry and feel in our hearts. He has the ability and the power to forgive in ways that we could only hope to learn. He's the God who split the seas and saved the Israelites from Pharaoh and the Egyptians. He has the power to conquer death. And this is the God that we serve, and he is able to save us. And then it's the next phrase, and you read it. But even if he doesn't, even if, man, that statement's packed with faith. We know that he sees the big picture, and we trust in his power alone, and we trust in his wisdom. We believe with all our heart that he can do this. He can save us. We believe in his power, but if he chooses not to save us in this furnace, we're going to trust his heart. And that kind of belief and confidence fosters courage and contentment and resolve. And my God is able to deliver me, but even if he doesn't, I'm not going to bow down. It would be really easy for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego just to bow down. I mean, God knows that they don't worship any other God, even though everybody worships a plurality of gods. They're not going to bow down to a statue. But even if they did, God knows that they don't. Their allegiance is not with any other God. Or they could have just bowed down and protect their lives and just did what everybody else was doing, went with the crowd or the popular thing, or they got intimidated and they just bowed down and then even asked God for forgiveness. But they don't. Meaning they could have just thought, I'm just going to rationalize this. It's just one time. It's just one thing. But here's what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego knew. One time leads to two times. And two times leads to three times. And you make enough concessions and you rationalize it away enough times, they know that leads to a life of compromise. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they had a plan, and they've always had a plan, and that plan was obedience to the one true God. They had a plan to obey God no matter what, long before that statue was built, long before King Nebuchadnezzar came in and took over their nation. They resolved in their hearts to consistently honor God no matter what.
I mean, and I think we need to do that in our lives too. We give our lives to Christ and say, hey, I want to make you Lord of my life. Mm-hmm. But do we consistently say, I'm going to stand against the things in this culture that are pagan and a worship to an idol, and I'm going to stand. Yeah. And
I'm not going to live with the popular. I'm not going to just do what everybody else does.
Yeah.
And it's so heartbreaking sometimes to see Christians that Jesus is supposed to be Lord and Savior, which means that the Bible is our authority, but yet they don't lean on or embrace or preserve truth. They don't, and so it's hard, man. It's really hard.
Yeah. Am I going to, like, when I'm talking to my kids about baptism, I'm like, hey, this is you giving all your decisions over to God. So, hey, am I going to move in with my boyfriend or girlfriend?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Because that's God's word says. So God is my authority. His word is my authority. Yeah. And whatever culture is doing cannot shape my moral values. It's what the Bible says that has to shape it. And so
the culture can't define us. We should define culture based on what Scripture says. Yeah, it's like, hey, everybody in college drinks. Oh, really? Well, just because everybody doesn't mean that you should. And, man, Joyce Meyer has a quote that I've held on to forever. And it's such a simple quote. It says, hey, if you're the only one doing what's right, you're the only one doing what's right. And the reality is we're going to always be put in situations. We live in the world, not of it. And, again, we're playing an away game where everybody is chasing whatever you want, live your truth, chase whatever makes you happy. All of that, and we go.
It's dangerous.
We're just not going to do that. We trust that God knows what's best. He's not only author of life, creator of life, but He's sustainer of life. And so, as we look at the Scriptures, we're going to allow that to drive how we live and how we think and how we relate to people.
It's those two words: even if, even if we get rejected by a group of friends, even if we, miss out on fun or which ends up being disaster anyway. Even if that person breaks up with me. Yeah. Even if I'm going to worship and follow the one true God.
That's good, man.
So Daniel 3:19 through 23, Nebuchadnezzar was so furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I like this, that his face became distorted with rage.
Wow.
I think it'd be like a great children's ministry activity. Everybody make a good distorted face with rage.
That's right.
But he commanded that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than usual. Like crazy hot. How would they even know
I don't even know. Is there a button that says hit 7? Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I don't know how they got it really hot.
Yeah.
Then he orders some of the strongest men of his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So they tied them up and threw them into the furnace, fully dressed in their pants, turbans, robes, and other garments. And because the king, in his anger, had demanded such a hot fire in the furnace, the flames killed the soldiers as they threw the 3 men in. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, securely tied, fell into the roaring flames.
Wow.
That's well, and just the idea of being the soldier that has to throw them.
Yeah.
In. And it doesn't go into detail here, but were the 3 guys, were they nervous? Yeah. Were they like a little bit fearful? I don't know. I would think so. I would think as you got, but did they get up close to the heat? And because of what happens in that next section of Scripture, did they not even feel it? But 7 times hotter, he was angry. He was embarrassed.
Yep.
And his ego.
Pride was hurt.
Yeah. And so anger came out. And think about this story. Thrown in, you'd burn up in seconds. You'd just be, you'd melt. You'd probably die pretty quickly.
That's right.
It killed the guys that were throwing them in. So
it's that hot.
I wonder the flames, if they came out and set the guys on fire.
Yeah. Right.
That could have been terrible. So, but they probably thought that they were going to be thrown into the fire, and 1 or 2 things were going to happen. The fire would go out, or they were going to see their maker. Like they were going to die.
God, you're going to protect us here, or I guess we're going to see you face to face. That's right. Yeah. Daniel 3:24 and 25, it says, but suddenly Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in amazement and exclaimed to his advisors, didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them into the furnace? Yes, your majesty, we certainly did, they replied. Look, Nebuchadnezzar shouted, I see 4 men unbound walking around the fire unharmed, and the 4th is like a god.
It was probably Tiffany Jacobs. It's probably her. She's
so holy. Tiffany the baptizer.
Right. She got because it says their hair wasn't burned.
That's right. So she still had those sweet curls.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Tiffany, I'm going to call and warn you about this later. But the fourth one being like the Son of Man. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, we find Shadrach, Meshach in the fire, unbound and unharmed. It says that they were tied up. They were bound before they were thrown in there. And it also says, just as you mentioned, the 4th person in the fire. Scholars have different opinions as to who this 4th person in the fire was. It could have been an angel. God could do that, certainly, and that's cool. But even just the way that it's read in the Scriptures, it's translated in many texts, the son of a deity or the son of God, which is which may be what's going on, that this was pre-incarnate presence of Jesus himself right there in the fire with them. And listen, if you think this story is unbelievable, I get it. I do too. But I will say this, and I've said this often, if you can believe Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, if you can believe that, you can believe everything in this book. And we see the climax of the story of God saving these three courageous, faith-filled men of God. And it moves us toward this Christmas season that reminds me of a name that was given to Jesus before he was born, even in that stable. And the name is Emmanuel, which means God with us. God with us. Just as Jesus met them in the fire, I'm so thankful that no matter what comes our way, Jesus promised us to meet us in the middle of it. You know, I'll be honest with you. I had two conversations yesterday with two men. One's in the hospital. One's battling potentially a stage 4 terminal cancer. And, you know, it's a hard thing to hear that kind of news. I haven't experienced that personally. My wife has experienced that. But as you think about these men, it's like, man, if there's anything that they need to know in that moment is that God is with us. He sees us. He's with us. And he's going to be there, and he's going to walk through us through these circumstances with us. And I love that. You know, there's a couple songs that come to mind as we're thinking about this text. There's a worship song that Hillsong did called "Another in the Fire," and I love the lyrics of this song because it talks about the God that we serve, who is able to save. And I just want to share the chorus and the bridge with you. But the chorus says, "There's another in the fire standing next to me. There's another in the waters holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding of what power sets me free, there's a grave that holds no body now that the power lives in me." And then the bridge says, "And I can see the light in the darkness, and the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between wears thin. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us." And Locker Room, you know this. We're never alone. You may feel alone, but you're never alone. And I can't help but wonder when Isaiah was talking about the power of God and the provision of God when he wrote this passage, I think he thought about this story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And he says this in Isaiah 43:2-3. It's a famous passage. "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. And when you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. For I, the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior." I love that promise from Isaiah.
Well, it's got to be Israel going through the Red Sea in the first phrase, right? And then when they crossed over the Jordan, and they walked right across it, didn't they?
Yeah, they were surrounded. Nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Moses drops that staff in the water, and it parts, man.
That's pretty incredible that Isaiah wraps those three stories up in that one little verse. So,
absolutely.
Daniel 3:26-27. Then Nebuchadnezzar came as close as he could to the door of the flaming furnace and shouted, "Hey, it's really hot in there." No,
you guys want to come out?
You guys come a little closer this way.
That's right.
I'm burning.
Is that the Message version?
That's right. No, came to the door of the flaming furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped out of the fire.
Yeah.
Then the high officers, officials, governors, and advisors crowded around them and saw that the fire had not touched them. Not a hair on their heads was singed, and their clothing was not scorched. They didn't even smell of smoke. That's crazy.
No, dude.
I mean, their bodies hadn't been harmed, and what were they talking about inside the furnace in that moment? I always wonder these dumb things that aren't included in the script. What were they saying to each other? They were walking around because Nebuchadnezzar saw them. So with the fourth one, and they were like, my thought is they're saying, "Hey, thanks, Jesus. We really needed this.
That's right.
How are you doing this? This is crazy." I mean, you think about the miracle of that.
My deodorant's really strong today. I'm not even sweating.
It's a degree.
That's right.
Times 7.
That's right.
Not a hair on their body. Not a smell of smoke.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't enjoy a fire pit or go to a Mexican restaurant and get fajitas without smelling it for days, right?
That's right.
But they didn't even smell. The only thing that got burnt up were the ropes that bound them.
That's big. That's really big.
So that set them free.
Yeah.
And it's such a cool picture for us because God does allow us to go through difficult things, when we're going to stand, and He's going to do one of two things: He's going to protect us, or He's going to allow us to go through that thing and learn from it. But even if, right, and that in these moments, the only things that would burn would be the ropes, some kind of long-standing bondage to sin or an addiction that has you tied up and stuff for many years, God can remove that.
Yeah.
He can help you with that. I'm excited I'm going to throw a little plug in here. We just started AA in Georgetown.
That's awesome.
So we have a group meeting on Tuesday nights at 7:00. And there's new guys coming every week, and we're praying for them.
It's just such a scary thing, but you got to move toward it and trust God, and He'll burn off all of that stuff. He'll begin healing and saving and doing a new work. Yeah, that's awesome, man. What are the days and what times?
Tuesdays at 7 p.m.
That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
We go through a fire, and it forces us to lean into God, because in that moment, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego being carried by those strong guys into the fire, and just the feelings they had to have gone through then. I don't know if I can do that. I don't know. Maybe I'll bow. Maybe wait. I don't know. I don't think that's what they did. I think they faced it.
It just resolved.
But there had to be
something in your heart.
Yeah.
Going, all right, God. Are you going to show up here? And that's fair.
But even if,
man. Yeah, I'll wrap up this story. Daniel 3:28-30. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, "Praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego." How about that? This time he's not worshiping them. He sent his angel to rescue his servants who trusted in him. They defiled the king's command. He's talking about himself. And were willing to die rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I will make this decree. This is crazy. If any people, whatever their race or nation or language, speak a word against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they will be torn limb from limb. Their homes will be turned into heaps of rubble, because there is no other God who can rescue like this. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to an even higher position in the province of Babylon. What a powerful story. That should breathe a lot of confidence into our faith and put steel in our backbones to stand strong, to stand up under whatever comes our way, which leads to this question for us as men on Locker Room. What has you tied up? What are you afraid of? What keeps you from having the confidence to take a stand and live the kind of life that God wants you to live? What other God are you bowing down to right now? Or do you feel like you're kind of shifting or compromising? And is it because of the pressure of our culture, or the pressure of people, or the pressure around you? What kind of ropes have you been bound with? What has you stuck? What has you trapped? From what do you need to be rescued from? Because on the other side of the story, I want to remind us that we are in the world, but not of it. And Jesus tells us that, hey, listen, I was hated, and you're going to be hated. And John 16:33 says this, that, hey, we're in the world, and in this world you're going to have trouble. But Jesus says, take heart, take courage, because I've overcome the world. So we should have confidence to stand up under whatever comes our way, because we're standing on a firm foundation. And whether you're in high school or college or a young adult, I want to remind you that we're playing an away game. We live in close proximity to the residence of God and God's truth. And that's okay. He keeps standing. We don't have to be censored. We don't have to turtle up. We don't have to bow down. And maybe you're the only Christian in your workplace. You may be the only Christian in your family. I felt that. And what our encouragement to you today would be just to keep standing. Stay faithful. Don't bow down. Don't quit. Stand with conviction. Have resolve. Have trust. Keep your roots deep in God's word. But be respectful, but stand resolved. Tim Keller has this quote, man. And I remember when he said it. I was at a conference when he said this. But he said, the gospel attracts and repels people. The Bible says that we will be persecuted. If you're always getting persecuted, you're probably a jerk. If you're never getting persecuted, you're probably a coward. I'll say this again. The gospel attracts and repels people. The Bible says that we will be persecuted. If you're always getting persecuted, you're probably a jerk. If you're never getting persecuted, you're probably a coward. We should wrestle with this. We should. Here's the deal. If you're going to live for Jesus, you're going to take shots. The Bible says we will be criticized, we'll be made fun of, we won't be understood, we'll be marginalized, we'll be called words that aren't true. It goes with the territory, but we're built for this. So, Kevin, how do you hope that this story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego encourages and equips men to just chase God with all that they are, stay rooted in him with these two words, even if?
Yeah, I mean, I worked in a very popular coffee shop for 4 years.
Yeah.
And there were moments where my faith was tested or I was challenged coworkers that didn't have the same beliefs that I did, and they engaged in the conversation.
Sure.
I even got in trouble with the manager for answering the question I was being asked.
That you were being asked,
because it was about Jesus. And in those moments, the Holy Spirit really gave me conviction and words to say to respond to that and to stand.
Yeah.
But there were times where I kind of got nervous or didn't want to embarrass myself or make an enemy and that's kind of the Tim Keller quote. It's like kind of possibly being a coward. But I always went forward, and I always tell people, your next step in discipleship is doing whatever Jesus calls you and tells you to do. And that happens in the workplace. So we trust in Jesus, and he's proves himself trustworthy because he gives us the word. But even if he doesn't help redeem that conversation, maybe it goes sideways and I did get fired or something. I didn't get fired, but I could have.
Right.
He's going to stand with us, even if it doesn't go the way we think it should.
And we're not supposed to be obnoxious.
No.
He's not telling us to do that.
No, be loving.
Yeah, be loving. But you can stand and be loving, and you can be kind, and you can disagree without being hateful, even though you're going to be called that or intolerant. We're called to love our neighbor, but it doesn't mean that we have to agree with our neighbor, and it doesn't mean we have to celebrate our neighbor. We have to do everything and like every post. I mean, that's the nature where this has been twisted. And so you don't have to be obnoxious. You can do this kindly and humbly, but you should stand resolved. Keep your ground.
Well, I got invited to a parade in Louisville. And celebrating a certain lifestyle that I don't agree with. Yeah. And I was invited by a coworker who was in that lifestyle. And I said, I don't think I can, man. Yeah. I said, I'd love to sit down and have coffee with you here at the shop, but I'm not gonna go to the parade. Sorry. Yeah. And it was just like conversations came out of that, and I had a manager tell me I wasn't allowed to talk about Jesus at work, and I said, well, I mean, you have to prohibit all free speech if you're going to prohibit my free speech. And I said I wasn't being obnoxious. I just said you can't force me to listen to the escapades of these young kids on Friday and Saturday night. Right. And not police it if when asked. I wasn't proselytizing pushing it down their throats or anything. Right. I was just answering people's life questions and trying to help. But there are areas in our life that we will come to with certain circumstances where we need to take a stand. Yeah. And we need to have that confidence like you talked about. And when we take that stand, we could lose our job. I thought I was going to get fired. Right. And I needed the insurance because we were having babies at that time. Sure. In our life. Scary. So, I don't need to get fired. So there's a part of me going, man, just shut up and do your job. Right. But there's another part of me that said, no, you got to stand up. And I think that's a big part of the message of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's good. And he's put the Holy Spirit in us. And, 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. Yeah. And we can trust him with our lives. And even in those moments where we're risking something here on earth, we don't want to risk what is in heaven for us. And we want to follow what the Holy Spirit's leading us to do and do it with love and confidence. That's good, man. It's a great challenge for all of us. There's another song that I thought about, too. I went to their concert not too long ago. Mercy Me has a song called Even If. And if you're in a hard spot right now where you're trying to wrestle through where's God, and it's a great song. It's called Even If by Mercy Me. But God calls us to walk by faith and trust him because we know that he sees us and he's for us. And he has a plan for us. And as we wrap up, I want to talk about just our group's model that we have at our church. We go through different seasons, and so the next season that we have is January 21st, 2024. We'll kick off brand new groups. Some groups will just continue. But we're going to kick off new locker room groups back off in this time. If you're interested in starting a locker room group or jumping into one, please do that. Part of the reason that we're able to stand just like these guys were because we had other guys around us. That's their strength in numbers, and your faith encourages my faith encourages your faith, and it's really easy to start a locker room group. You can go to southland.church/groups and click on I want to lead a group or start a group, and the group staff will connect with you. All you have to do is recruit some guys, listen
watch Locker Room and then walk through the questions in the show notes. If you're interested, reach out to your group staff. It's a great group of men to be a part of, to do something like this, just to connect and talk about God's Word and encourage each other, challenge each other is important. And if you're interested in jumping into our Fight Club group in Georgetown, we're going to meet on Monday nights. We're going to kick everything off Monday, January 22nd. It's from 7 to 9. We'll do it Monday nights for 15 weeks. We're going to meet in the auditorium at the Georgetown campus. If you're a man attending the Georgetown campus, we would love to have you. If you're part of another campus and you're going, I haven't gotten to do this yet, or I'd like to do this, you're welcome to come. Join us there as well. We have different guys at different campuses come all the time. Wherever we end up going, it's always fun to have different guys from different campuses because it's 5 campuses, but it's one church. And so in January, we haven't got it set up yet, but in January, you'll be able to sign up at southland.church/groups. You click on the link for join a group, and you'll find the different campuses. You'll click Georgetown, and then you just click on there, and you'll find Fight Club, and you can sign up there. But come join us as we build a culture of godly men and godly warriors that fight for the most important things. Hey, man, any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Man, one, I've really enjoyed being here.
It's fun, man.
You
Thanks for doing this.
Just as good a job as Scott Echo.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
No, but it's great. What a great passage to just marinate in for a while. I'd encourage everybody to go in there and read those first few chapters. Read the whole book, but those first few chapters and get an idea of what happens next in the life of Nebuchadnezzar and these guys. It was a good podcast.
It's fun to dig it out, man. Thanks for teaching with me. That was fun, man.
Honored to get to do it.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough for coming on and teaching with me. This was awesome. I'm proud of you, man. You're a great leader. I love your family. It's fun to get to do ministry with you, and I'm so thankful God's put us in the same place for this season. I love what God's doing in your life, and I love what He's doing in your family with your kids. And your wife should be singing at some point here soon. So
I agree. I agree with that.
She has got some pipes. Anyway, that was for you, Stacy. But I love what you're doing with your team in Georgetown, and I love that campus. God has done a remarkable work. There's so much growth, and there's so much opportunity to impact the culture there. Our 2 words for today were even if, and we're going to wrap up this first year of Locker Room Podcast. We've tackled 34 weeks of Locker Room in 2023. It's been a journey. It's been a joy. Thanks for your encouragement and stuff that you've shared with me over this year. All the men that I've gotten to talk with, whether that be through email or phone call or through a text message, we've tackled a lot of hard topics and had a lot of great guests on, and really grateful and excited about what God's going to do in 2024. If this podcast has encouraged you, I'd love to hear from you. If you're wrestling with Christianity, would like to become a follower of Jesus, or you just need help figuring out what your next step is, man, shoot us an email at lockerroom@southland.church. We would be happy and honored to help you in any way that we can. Connect you with the right people, help you take a step of faith into our community, whatever that looks like. We'd love to be able to help you. And as always, if this podcast has encouraged you, you should share it with somebody, whether it's a friend, a coworker, somebody that you know, a son, a son-in-law, whatever that looks like. Man, don't be afraid to share good stuff. It's helpful. It's encouraging for people. Have a great Christmas, you guys. Get after it. Keep fighting for the most important things. We'll kick back off probably the 3rd week of January 2024, and we'll see you next time on Locker Room.